This is some this is some bullshit because this censorship happens with everything, right? It does. But the problem is that this is a unique thing, and it's especially been in the last 10 years, is that you've had a tremendous amount of institutional calls for censorship, and I find these to just be so problematic and so bad. And like you're getting this with movies, you get it with TV shows, you get it with music, and you especially get it with video games. And at the end of the day, these people, their main goal is to make sure that you can't have a fucking opinion. And the worst thing that they can have happen to them is for other people to get together and find out, wait a minute, actually, a lot of people do think like I do, because these people rely on the illusion of a false consensus in order to push a narrative. And that's why they're going after Steam. That's the reason.
A group of developers are speaking out. For over 20 years, Steam has been the undisputed king of PC gaming.
Yep.
But in February 2026, a massive report from The Guardian revealed a growing rebellion. A group of developers are speaking out.
Shit publication from the UK, by the way. Trash.
And their target isn't a rival console.
Yep.
It's the very thing that makes Steam work. The user review system.
See, they don't understand this because they're in fucking Britain or something like that, but we have freedom of speech here. They want to bring and colonize us. We fought a fucking war over this in 1776. No, we don't want you to come and colonize our fucking websites so you can push your narrative. The fuck out of here.
Titled "This Shouldn't Be Normal," developers speak out about bigotry on Steam, paints a picture of a platform in chaos. Multiple creators are describing what they call ineffective moderation and
it's not effective because it doesn't
unchecked hatred. They want Valve
unchecked. They want to tell other people what to think. That's what they do. They want to tell other people what to think and tell other people what they can't think.
To step in. They want reviews deleted. They want the culture war scrubbed from their store pages.
They don't want the culture war scrubbed. They want to win the culture war. That's a very big, important difference. Because these people are not against a culture war. They're against an opposition to their culture war. This entire idea that, it's culture war. No. You start it, and then you don't want anybody else to respond. That's the problem.
Valve isn't budging. In fact, their response to these demands has been one of the most significant defenses of platform neutrality we've seen in years. Today, we're looking at why some developers think Steam is broken and why Valve believes that fixing it their way would actually be the ultimate act of censorship. The primary argument from the developers is that Steam has become a quote-unquote battleground. Take design.
It's a battleground for the culture war. Yeah, and you have a problem with that because you just want to win categorically. You want to win by default, and because people are pushing back on you, now you think it's a problem.
Lawhead, for example, Lawhead spent 2 years trying to get specific reviews removed from their game pages. One review of the game Blue Suburbia was objectively personal, referencing Lawhead's private life and physical appearance. Lawhead told The Guardian, "I assumed reporting Steam abuse might have its own issues, but I did have hope that this would be the way to get it resolved." Then there's the case of Coven, an actual
total bullshit, by the way. Nobody should get their review deleted. If you want to review something because you think the developer's fat, fair. If you want to review something because you think that the whatever it is, like the fucking, the graphics are bad, fair. Everything should be fair.
Horror game.
That's what I
The
think.
developer Ethan claims he was targeted by a curator called Charlie Tweets Detected. This curator doesn't review games based on graphics or gameplay. They review them based on what the developer said about Charlie Kirk.
So what's the problem with that?
Reported this to Steam support, arguing it was off topic. But look at how
that's not even true. I bet this is the question that you should ask anybody who tries to push this. Do you think that people should be able to downvote a game and give a negative review for a game when it's made by a developer that thinks that black people should go back into slavery? Like then a person that's racist that calls them the N-word. And they will trip over each other to try to explain why it's different. But at the end of the day, they actually don't have a problem with this at all. They have a problem when it happens to them. That's what the issue is.
Steam responded, they defined off-topic as a recipe for cookies or something completely unrelated to video games that is clearly trolling. Because the review was tied to the developer of the game, Steam let it stand. To these developers, this feels like an ultimate act of betrayal. Amy of Studio Plain Toast stated Valve's refusal to moderate any of this is making Steam reviews and forums the battleground for some kind of culture war. It's making them unsafe for marginalized people. But this
unsafe for marginalized people. If you read a review, you might kill yourself. You might actually even die. So this is the anti-woke. See, the reason why they have a problem with this is because they're losing. They're totally losing their market share. They've already lost the chokehold that they had on online discourse. They no longer can put out a message and nobody can respond to it. Now you have people like me that farm the fuck out of them for hate, and I'm going to keep doing it too. I'm going to keep doing it. And now, every single time that I hear somebody try to censor, I do it twice as much. I go twice as hard. I push twice as much. I review these games. I shit on them. And that's what you get. You shouldn't have done it. And the thing is, and the reason why, if anyone's retarded, yeah, exactly. Aren't we all marginalized people? No, they want to marginalize you and then claim to be the victim whenever you try to push back. That's the reason why. They want to criticize without criticism. I'll keep doing it. I love it.
But this isn't just about small indie games either. We are seeing this play out with massive projects that have recently crashed and burned.
People don't
just
like the game.
Look at Highguard. When the game launched, it was met with a very negative rating almost instantly. The developers at Wildlight Studio didn't just take the L. They blamed the hate mobs. A former developer who got let go reflected on the launch, saying we were turned into a joke from minute one.
It was actually about second one, but yeah, that's true. This guy got so much pushback on Twitter for writing out his stupid little article that he deleted his entire account. You know what I call that? Natural selection. That's what's going to happen. Shouldn't have done it. Shouldn't have made trash and blame gamers. And like he's going there, he's quoting things that I said. He doesn't name me, right? But he's quoting things that I said. And then he's acting like, oh, it's unfair. Too bad, bitch. Too bad. I'm going to do it again.
Argue that dishonest critiques of their characters and anti-woke sentiment killed the game before it had a chance. But
see, they always have a problem with anti-woke sentiment, but they don't have a problem with woke sentiment. You know why? It's because that's what they want to push. So they have no problem pushing their narrative, but they don't want anybody else to have the same thing.
If you look at the reviews, the players are saying something different. They're saying the game was boring, the art style was unattractive, and they didn't want another live service clone. By asking Steam to moderate these reviews, the developers are essentially asking Steam to hide the fact that the market has rejected their product.
That's exactly it. They want to censor the player so they can sell their product to people that are uninformed. They fundamentally, like what they're advocating for is fundamentally aggression and scamming an audience. That's what they want.
Mike Rose, head of No More Robots, recently went public because Valve rejected a complaint about a review that said woke game also has Muslims. Rose argued that racism is against guidelines and should be a no-brainer for removal, but
Nope. Too bad. Too bad. If someone doesn't like that, then they can downvote the game. They want censorship so bad, they do. It's because they can only exist in a world that's censored. They can't exist in a free marketplace of ideas. The only place in which these people can proliferate and succeed is whenever they are allowed to succeed through institutional means. They don't deserve to succeed in the natural market. That's why they have to fight so hard to make it unnatural.
Valve's response was silent. They didn't delete it because the moment Valve starts...
Of course it's not a race. There's plenty of white Muslims. It's overwhelmingly, maybe, I don't know if it's overwhelmingly, but like a lot of people that are Islamic or not Muslim. But like, yeah, there are white Muslims for sure.
Verifying what is a valid opinion on a group of people, they become an editorial board, not a storefront. So what we're seeing here in 2026 is an accountability crisis. In the past, if a game failed, the developers went back to the drawing board to figure out where it went wrong. Today, they just go ahead and complain to Steam. By grouping legitimate criticism with bigotry, developers are attempting to create a world where any dissent or negative review is a violation of safety. They are
that's what they do, right? Is they say that, and I'm very opinionated about this if it's not obvious. They say that any disagreement or pushback is somehow bigotry or problematic. So really what what they do is they start with the premise that bigotry should be banned. And then they reframe criticism into bigotry so they can justify banning it. It's a 1-2 step. It's a second order effect. So some people don't get the connection, but that's where things are going.
Actually asking Valve to ignore the data, which is very similar to the relooted strategy when CEO Ben Myers blames YouTubers and bad faith.
Oh, wait, he made a tweet about this? I didn't even see this. This is the Steam forum for Relooted. It's all grave dancing, rightoid, culture war incels. Do you think Valve is ever going to crack down on this shit? If they ever do, I'm going to make it worse for you. I'm going to do it even more. That's fine. I'll keep it up. I'll be right back. All right. I'm back. Sorry about that. So we got a hose mad situation, huh? They crashing out over my YouTube video? They should be saying thank you. It got more people seeing the fucking game than anybody else.
And bad faith actors, he is asking for a version of Steam where only approved opinions are allowed to affect a game's visibility. So if Valve would hypothetically fall to this pressure...
And they would do this to YouTube too. That's what they do, is they try to knock down one domino and use the fact that that domino fell to justify the other ones. So they pressure Steam a bunch, maybe Steam does it, and then they go to YouTube and they say, well, Steam did it, you should do it too. That's how it works.
Steam review score would become as useless as a paid-for critic score on a corporate site. But here's where things get interesting. As most tech giants usually cave under this kind of pressure, Valve operates very differently. With only 300 employees managing 42 million concurrent users, Valve relies on a philosophy of radical neutrality. When Lawhead pushed Steam to remove those reviews, Steam support wrote, "We aren't in a position to verify the accuracy of statements made in user reviews, and we don't try to moderate reviews based on accuracy."
That's right.
Valve went even further, explicitly stating that removing these reviews could be seen as censorship.
It would be censorship, and that's what they want. They want censorship.
This is a massive statement. Valve is essentially saying that once they start deciding which mean reviews are accurate and which ones are harassment, they become the arbiters of truth.
Exactly.
And Valve has no interest in being...
And then as soon as they delete some reviews, then there's the question of why aren't you deleting the other reviews? What about this other review? Well, there's this review over here. Well, you deleted that one. Why won't you delete this one? This is Pandora's box.
Moral compass. Another developer received a similar response after reporting transphobic comments. It's much better to continue working on the product while letting the community use the helpfulness feature to surface reviews that they agree with or find to be uninformed. And this is the Steam way. If a review is bad or bigoted or stupid, Valve expects the users to vote it down into irrelevance. They believe in the helpful button.
Except it's the top review.
More than the delete button. The developers in The Guardian report argue that because Steam is a near monopoly, it has a monumental responsibility to protect them. They say a single...
A single negative rating can mean a difference in success and failure? Bullshit. It's just not even true.
negative rating can mean the difference between success and failure.
You
And
just
in a
made that
way,
up.
they are right. It can. But that's exactly why the system must remain uncensored. If Valve starts deleting reviews because a developer finds them
And also, like, keep in mind that all of this is done from the perspective of the seller. This is the commercial perspective. They're not thinking about the user. They're not thinking about whether the user is getting a good understanding of what they're buying. They don't care about what the user's perspective is. This is all about, the industry. It's all about, media and how media feel. The moment that you start making decisions for a group of people that's not your core customer and your end customer is the moment that your business starts failing. Now, it might not be immediate, but it is inevitable.
sincere or bigoted, where does it stop? Does a review complaining about woke characters get deleted?
Yeah.
What about a review complaining about bad optimization that the dev claims is fixed?
Yep.
What about a review that
like Monster Hunter Wilds.
calls a dev lazy? The moment Valve begins verifying accuracy, every developer on the platform will flood them with tickets demanding the removal of every negative review that isn't 100% technical.
Exactly. And it will waste everybody's time.
We would see the death of the mixed rating. Every game would just be
Stop protecting vulnerable groups instead of protecting customers. Well, that's a false premise. There are no vulnerable groups. If you're too vulnerable that you can't read a Steam review and you're going to have to end up killing yourself, then you need to get off the internet and you need to be committed to a mental institution immediately. Immediately, you need to be committed to a mental institution. Like I'm not gonna turn the world into a padded room just because some people won't go in one. No. Deal with it, pussy.
Overwhelmingly positive because any negative review would just get deleted. The report quotes developer Fee saying to us, it seemed that in Steam's view, hateful comments about an individual is abuse, but targeting it towards a group of people is totally fine. And while that sounds harsh, it reveals the core of the friction. Steam treats groups as topics. If you make a game about a specific political identity, the community is going to discuss that identity.
Of course.
You cannot invite the
it's
world
part of the game
to look at your art and then demand they only speak about it in ways you find safe. But for
exactly. I love this guy.
the consumer, Steam is a marketplace of ideas. When you see a game with mostly negative reviews, it's just a large warning. Sometimes that warning is about bugs, sometimes it's about a developer's behavior, and sometimes it's about the woke content the developer is pushing. The point is, the customer gets to decide what information is relevant to them. So the Guardian article concludes with Lawhead saying...
And you can easily look at a review, like for example, Monster Hunter Wilds is a great example of this. So if you, like, I have a great computer. I do. I have an amazing computer. And because of that, I never had to deal with any of the issues that Monster Hunter Wilds had with performance because my 5090 could run it anyway. But other people did. So whenever I saw the negative reviews, I just saw them and I was like, ah, shit. Okay, well, I guess this is just because performance. I guess the game will be okay for me, right? So, like, if you just look at a number, like, isn't that also the user error? Did you finish Kazan? I never did, actually.
This shouldn't be normal, but for millions of people who use Steam every day, this is the normal they want. They want the raw, unfiltered, and sometimes ugly truth of the community's opinion. Steam's refusal to moderate accuracy isn't a failure of the system. It's actually a feature that keeps the system honest. So Valve has made its choice. They are choosing the chaos of the public square over the safety of the gated community.
There's no safety of the gated community. Because the safety of the developers is the danger of the user. Like, basically, you're sparing a developer's feelings, so potentially millions of people could make a bad purchasing decision and be out $30. And now you have to deal with the refund system. Now you're thinking about this. So, like, it's another emotional manipulation inversion. So you're trying to say that you getting your feelings hurt is more important than, damn, that's a big ass spider. He respawned. I forgot what happened to him. Now he's back. So anyway, your feelings as a developer are more important than the money of your customers. That's what it is. show it. I don't know. It's like white or something like that. Who gives a fuck?
As long as they do, Steam will remain the only place where the users, not the corporations,
Yeah.
have the final word.
That's
but
right.
overall, what do you think?
Oops, sorry about that. I mean, that's basically the end of the video, to be fair. But like,
Is Valve justified in protecting mean reviews to avoid censorship?
they absolutely
30 years
are,
ago,
by the
Kirk-
way. They 100% are. It's
group
not
of
even
developers-
a question. Like, Steam is one of the only companies that's actually consumer first. Because fundamentally, what these other people want is not consumer first. They don't care about the consumer. They don't want to help the consumer. They want to patronize, demonize, and negatively treat the consumer as some sort of adversary that must be overcome. Like, how can we overcome the consumer? How can we find a way to make this, like this stupid consumer believe what we think that they should think? And that's it. Fuck that, man. Yeah, they hate the consumer. They do. They hate the consumer. They patronize the consumer, and they ultimately resent, and they, I think they hold the consumer in contempt. And the thing is that also they want to, this is one thing that's really important, is that there is a false premise, again, that we're the ones pushing the culture war. That's not true. They want to push their culture war, and they don't want anybody else to respond. They want to be the only people that have, any ability to speak out about this. Like, whenever they say culture war, they're already winning the culture war because they're making this game and they're being protected. But whenever there's a gap in the armor here, right? There's a crack in the dam. Now it's a big problem because it shows the flaws. Projecting no way. Yeah, they are the ones that started this culture war. These are parasites that have infested video games and media, and they make it impossible to get away from their message about trans people or about gay people or black people or whatever. And these are even messages that in a lot of cases I agree with. I just don't want to hear them when I'm playing a game about medieval fucking samurai. Like, I don't want to hear about feudal. I don't want to hear about, how hard it is to be a woman whenever I'm playing a game about being, a samurai for Oda Nobunaga. I don't want to hear that. It's not part of the fucking story. Shut the fuck up. So that's how I see it. And totally agree on that. Absolutely, I do. And they're even going to do that. The thing is, too, they'll do this with pricing. They'll do it with performance. They'll do anything that they can. There's the video. Make sure to get this. Like, Water CS2 makes a lot of videos. He, obviously a huge fan of Valve, and I am too. I totally support him. I support Valve. I think they're totally making the right decisions. And these shitty fucking companies, this UK rag that's sitting around trying to make bullshit, this shouldn't be normal. Why don't you shut the fuck up? Maybe you shouldn't be making video games like this. How about that? And also, like, who decides what's normal? Oh, I wonder, the thing that most people think in the entire world shouldn't be what's normal? Too bad. I don't think dogs should die. But they do, because that's the world. Get used to it, bitch. That's too bad. You don't want to hear that? They're so untalented, they can't tell a good struggle or women minority story? Well, I think that you're right about that. I mean, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of good stories. Like, for example, if a studio like Rockstar was making like what they were making that Assassin's Creed game that was like a post, like abolition, like, which is slavery, right? But post-slavery, like, let's say 1880s, and you're like a black guy that's fighting like KKK members and, like other types of racists trying to like, survive and help other black people. I think that'd be fucking goated. It would be amazing. But the truth is that a company like Ubisoft, they don't have the narrative, and they don't have the maturity to tell a story like that in a way that is respectful, clever, and not patronizing. They don't have the skill. Django Unchained would be a really good example of it being possible. Yeah, I love Django Unchained. I probably watched that movie 20 times. Like, over the years, I've probably watched it 20 times. I've watched Inglourious Basterds probably 50 times. So it's not that you can't do it, because, yeah, again, Django Unchained proved this isn't true. It's just that this company can't fucking do it. And that's it.